Great good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Tuesday, August 5th, year of our Lord 2025, and my Cordaro Jewelers watch tells me it's 9/11 on the nose. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, broadcasting today from the United States of America. I can prove it. We have Americans and America first in government. It's also the place for the brave. Like the veterans we salute today, thank you to John Basiliga and his great family of companies have made us and kept us free. Like Joseph Mahan, Scranton, Edward Urish, Drums, Paul Delaney, Hughestown, Sam Valenti, Pittston, William Whitelavage, Simpson, Carl Rice, Catawissa, the United States of America, founded with a certain knowledge and understanding by our incredible, irreplaceable, amazing founding fathers, that government is not, shall not be, cannot be our parent, our guide, our salvation, our direction, not any of these things, but is nothing more. I'm looking for my sound block. It's nothing more than a necessary evil we require to organize and protect society. The United States of America, the country where, for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. Freedom could not be parceled out to groups. It could not be controlled by government or government officials. It was ours. And our great Constitution ensured and codified freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press. Well, they use it. They use it to lie very often, but we'll live with that because we know better. Now, armed with these freedoms, and only because they had them, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show, well, it will always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And so I found it. We gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you a sanctuary of sanity for the balance of the morning in a world where an entire political party, the Democrats, have gone insane, and where our world leadership wants to drive this world into renewed slavery. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, we played those open sounders, and they were not directly related, but they're all of the same piece. They tell you the lies that you're hearing about COVID. And I mean, that's only one aspect of the COVID lie. That this vaccine, you had to take the vaccine, you had to do this, you had to do that. And you've seen this doctor. I'm trying to find his darn name. But you see this doctor, he's now advertising for some things, but he was one of the sole, I guess, sane voices in the midst of the COVID insanity that this country and this planet underwent. Absolutely remarkable, but he's exposing what the vaccine was and wasn't what it wasn't. And by definition, it wasn't a vaccine. By definition, it was not safe. Which anything that was that rushed, And then the climate hoax. You know, the 97% consensus. And people just believe it, and then they, well, okay, we accept it. This is the perfect example of the lie that takes a full day for the truth to catch up with it. Dr. McCullough, yes. Thank you. I knew our listeners would nail that. But he broke down the only people that said 0.053% of the scientists writing papers said that humanity was more than 50% to fault for climate change. Now, and he explains how they turned it into 97%. We're in a crazy world. And almost always, well, there's two things you can point to. What is sort of the common thread? Power and control. Power and control. That's what people want. They want dominion over other people. There's a certain group of and type and mentality. That's all they want. And that's the human condition. And that's the Democrat Party of today. That's the world leadership of today. There's no live and let live. It's I'll tell you how to live, and then I'll be happy, which is why we say at the beginning of every show, unhindered by government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. Now, how do you look at power and control? Well, you usually can follow the money. Who's making money off of all this? Who's gaining control and power? But there is no change. Literally no change. They're all the same thread. It doesn't matter. You could take any subject. Growth of government. The Green New Deal, which is an outgrowth of that explanation we just had. It gives them control. It gives them power over you, over your life. And most people will acquiesce, just as most people acquiesced during COVID. The non-deadly disease that they treated like it was the Spanish flu. They upended the entire planet. And it was not a coincidence that the billionaires of the world became even more fabulously wealthy, and the people in the bottom rung became poorer and more dependent. Just stay with me on that. It's very important that we all ignite, whether you've got a Democrat-leaning, Republican-leaning, and here's why I'm so ardently Republican and Trump. Because there's a true skepticism of government. There's a true understanding of what government growth does to freedom. Government growth means less freedom, period. And they're directly proportional. And then there's the people like the Pelosi's, like, you name them, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, name them, They want control over other people. AOC, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, Mamdani. You get to go through the whole. They want control over people. They don't like freedom. They can't impose their will if there is freedom. That has to be understood by enough people to fight these clowns off. And then there's the obvious, their policies do not work. They're contrary to human nature. And these people are idiots. They couldn't run a small grocery store. They couldn't run an Apple stand. But here they are running state of California, Gavin Newsom. Here they are in the United States Senate, House of Representatives. We have an idiot congresswoman, Democrat, of course, in Guatemala claiming she's a proud Guatemalan first. How insane are these people? And just like with the Russiagate probe, we are proving now, we always knew, they did the exact thing that they accused Trump of. Quite amazing. All right, we'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. Let's hear from our great sponsors. A little history, a little music, and then if you want to get involved in the action, 570-883-0098 to text or to call. American Bandstand. Murph tells us this date, 1957, debuted on ABC television, hosted by then 26-year-old Dick Clark. The first record he played was Buddy Holly's That'll Be the Day. Hey, by the way, did anybody see this? And I still have some doubts that I actually saw it. It was the last New Year's Rockin' Eve that Dick Clark that he spoke in. He appeared at I think for a number of years after, but he had his stroke. And he counted backwards. Does anybody remember that? And I mean, I know people were sort of pussyfooting around it and they didn't want to, but he counted backwards. I swear I saw it. I remember it distinctly. New Year's Eve and all that never was my thing. But I happened to be watching at that point. If anybody else remembers that the way I remember it, that Dick Clark was doing the countdown and then started counting backwards. And they had to relieve him of his duties, and then that was the last year he spoke, even though he appeared subsequently. Anyway, 570-883-0098 to call or to text. Bob, let's see the real narratives of the Democrat Party power and control. How this happens is if Trump and America fails. That's their real goal, to gain back power and reenact their same failed policies to destroy our democracy. And they're the ones after democracy. Hillary Clinton's campaign, trying to develop opposition research. Well, they couldn't find enough on Trump. I mean, because the problem is his life is an open book. And he doesn't run from most of the things he's done. He doesn't pretend he's a moralist. He's not like Hillary and a lot of these Democrats, like, oh, we're better than you. He realizes he's worse than us. And he plays it straight out. And so their effort fails. So then what do you do next? You manufacture negative news. Everybody knew it was not true. The so-called Steele dossier and its contents. But then, after the election, they were like, oh my God, we lost the election. They want to undermine his presidency. And based on the Steele dossier, which the FBI had been using all along to spy on the campaign, nobody believed Trump when he said it. They were spying on my campaign. And so they then aren't getting the intelligence reports back that they want. Obama asked for a new one. Well, Brennan, the slimeball pig that he is, he cooks it up. And now the CIA has a Russia-Trump connection. And it leads to a special counsel. And it cripples the Trump presidency and slows him down. Look at all the things he's doing now with just normal political fetters. And they use the intelligence agencies and the judiciary of this country to try to destroy and stop Donald Trump. It's been an unending process. Somebody should be punished for it. And it's possible, and don't get angry. These people are the most clever people on the planet. They're not very bright, but they're very clever. They know self-preservation. They cover their tracks as they're making them. But they're being exposed on all fronts. Somebody texts in, my wife almost lost her job because of Joe Biden's vaccine mandate. Remember he said his patience was wearing thin? if I could have smacked him in the face when he said that, like, who are you? An addled, deplorable, corrupt scumbag? Your patience is wearing thin with the American people for something that you're lying about. The shot. Unbelievable. In any event, we got to take our break because it is 9:32 on my Picardo Jewelers watch and now 9:33. And that says to me, we want to hear from our sponsors. We'll come back. We'll do a veterans tribute for this hour, the weather, and then you. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our man, John Basiliga, and all of his great companies, including Serenity Care, a personal care community with 4 locations: Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia care units at Mid-Valley and Kingston locations. They've been totally remodeled, totally done. Spick and span, great food. The gold standard for senior care in Northeast Pennsylvania for you or your family member. Serenity Care. Joseph Mahan. He died July 23rd. He was from Scranton. Born in that city. graduate of St. Paul's High School in the Greenridge section. He served this country in the United States Army during Vietnam, and then spent his career connecting us all with his work at Bell Telephone. Board member of the VFW Post 25. Joe was a curious tinkerer and closet inventor. He loved making things in his cellar workshop, the most famous being the lawn tractor sidecar, so his kids could ride along, and the custom hillside sliding board that was the marvel of the neighborhood. Joe is survived by his children, Brian and Maria, his granddaughter, and other family members. Joseph Mahan. Edward Urish. We lost him July 25th at the age of 93. He was from Drums. Born in that town. He graduated from Girard College, Philadelphia. He was a U.S. Army veteran during the Korean conflict, having served us from 1952 to 1954. He later retired from the U.S. Army Reserves. He was extremely proud of his service to our country. Ed was employed as a machinist for Herman Schwabe, Valmont, retiring in 1988. He loved hunting and working on upholstery, a skill he learned in the military. Ed was a hardworking and devoted husband, father, and provider. He never had anything bad to say about anyone and tried to find the good in everyone. He was loved by all who knew him, forever a charmer. Ed Urish preceded in death by his loving wife of 67 years, the former Phyllis Balliet, who passed away in 2019. Surviving are 4 sons, 5 grandchildren, a great-granddaughter, and 2 great-grandsons. Edward Urish, our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, partly sunny, high 85. Tonight, partly cloudy, low 60. Wednesday, partly cloudy with a chance of spotty showers, 82. Thursday, partly cloudy with a chance of spotty showers, high 82. How about that? So, Cutie took the Chauncey, the bull mastiff, up for a play date up at her sister's. And they have this, I don't know, what's one of the doodle things, but a big one. And so they played. They played for 3 hours straight. Well, Chauncey came home, and, well, he's tired. Now, the last 2 days, he's been extremely lethargic, point where you're worried. Do we take him to the whatever? It's like having a kid who's sick almost. He's got me up at midnight, then he had me up at 4, taking him outside. Taking him outside because he's not himself. So Chauncey, he seemed to be getting back in the pink today. Let us hope when I return home that he is fine. Somebody texts in, Bob, the Democrat Party refused to change their positions, minds, or policies. They got to the point now they're going further left and endorsing socialist candidates like Senator Warren did in New York mayor race, embracing Mamdani. It's unbelievable. Speaking of vaccines, and I don't know this to be true, but it's an interesting tidbit. I tried to explain to my mother that the 7 and 8-year-olds with measles missed their vaccines during the Biden years. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. Hey, Bob, Cinderblock here, doing my research into this matter of the Steele dossier, the Russia collusion lie, and all the rest of this nonsense. I have just one question. How are all these people not brought up on charges of being traitors, interfering with elections, trying to undermine and sabotage a sitting president, lying to the American people, spreading misinformation. Where is our great big Nuremberg-style trial for these people? I don't think we're going to get it, Cinderblock. In a way, I don't care because I just want them exposed. Because it's a free society. And if people want to vote dumb and vote for this Washington establishment and the Harrisburg establishment and the people that run government and the Democrat Party, well, unfortunately, I'll be stuck suffering with them. But yeah, there is no stake in the heart of this Dracula that will not die. There isn't. Not going to be that easy. Constant vigilance, constantly being involved, constantly voting and asking others to do so, and keeping others vigilant. That's our job. We talk about these veterans. Well, they did it in a real way. How hard is the responsibility we have to keep our heads about us, to keep our wits, to make sure that people know what's going on, at least the people that will listen, and it will be more than 50%, I promise you. Last election proved it. All right, we got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We will return. By the way, 81 northbound, you go from Pittston all the way up to Music, that same construction going on. We're going to get Tyler Cornell to come in and talk about it, but it ain't pretty, 81 North. Just try to avoid it. You have to avoid it. I did the turnpike yesterday. It worked. We'll be back. Boy, I wonder why the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics was fired. Because she sucked at her job? Because the reports were lies? Because 800,000 plus, 880,000 phantom jobs were created during the Biden administration, according to her? The woman who Joe Biden hired, by the way? Deep state all the way? But yes, it's autocratic to fire someone who fails at their job so miserably. These people are unbelievable. This is who we're dealing with, guys. And they're not going away. We've got to bulldoze right over them and save the damn country. Bloomberg Money Minute. We'll be right back. One of the best versions of this song ever was, what was the name of the fraternity movie? John Belushi and those guys. Oh, Animal House. But this is the Isley Brothers. This date, 1959, they recorded their hit, Shout, at RCA Victor's Music Center in Manhattan. Great song, isn't it? And the Statue of Liberty. Cornerstone laid this date in 1884. Bob Cordaro back with you on the program. So we're going to have Rick Bigelow. There's a reason August 5th stands out in our mind. Harry S. Truman made the big decision. So we're going to have some A-bomb discussion from World War II at 10:05. 11:05, we're going to have recently minted mayoral candidate Gene Barrett on the program. I'm looking for that. He's my guy. He's my guy for mayor. I'm a Scranton resident. I'm suffering under the left-wing lunacy and incompetence of the current mayor. And we need Gene Barrett. So he's going to be on. By the way, Lee texts in. He says, don't know if you talked about it. I did not. But Newswatch 16 bashed Bresnahan, Congressman Rob Bresnahan, for the first 9 minutes last night on the 6 p.m. news. Absolutely horrible how one-sided the news are. Well, I will say this, and I had a deep suspicion when I was doing my television show for a year. They'd screw me. They wouldn't play a program. They were absolutely horrible to deal with. Not the people I was dealing directly with, but this, whatever, their upper reaches of Channel 16. Horrible to deal with. And they would cancel a show, and then they wouldn't have anybody on duty to give them another show, and we would go blank, and I'd had sponsors and advertisers. So after a year, I can't deal with these people anymore. I'm done. They were going to screw me anyway at some point and take the time slot back, but they were awful to deal with. And I have heard tell from several sources that the news director went on a rant about Donald Trump in the newsroom. And so, news director, news executive, and I'm sure. So, yeah, they're left-wing lunatics. And I want you to remember this about Channel 16. Chelsea Stubb, who's going to marry our Congressman, Rob Bresnahan, very popular weekend and aspiring anchor. And recall back to when they said to her, we're not renewing your contract, but we will if Rob Bresnahan resigns from Congress. You imagine this insanity? Could you imagine that? So that's who you're dealing with Channel 16. And if I didn't have my firsthand dealings, I'd be questioning what I know now. They've got some left-wingers embedded either in Tegna, the corporation, and obviously even in the local operation, and they are screwing it up royally. And they're using it for their agenda instead of to bring you news and information. I feel sorry for the people that work there. I truly do, because there's a lot of great people there. My man Gary Duncan says the Democrat message is as clear as day. In order to be a Democrat today, you have to love illegal aliens more than U.S. citizens. You have to support late-term abortion as a form of contraception. You have to support trans rights over women's rights. You have to support gender surgery for minors. You have to pretend that there is nothing wrong with Biden. You have to be able to deny that Democrats lied to the country. You have to mock attempts at eliminating fraud and wasteful spending in our government. And last but not least, you have to be able to let Trump hatred consume your entire life and never even acknowledge that anything he has ever done has been good for America. Well, I think you nailed it. Well, as I look at my Picardo Jewelers watch. And remember, they got Breitling, Oris, Longines, Michelle, Shinola, Luminox, Swiss Army, and Seiko, in addition to the gorgeous Picardo watch that I have on my wrist every day. Picardo Jewelers, your watch store, tells me the time is 10 a.m. That means it's news time. We'll be back after this. Great good morning, everyone. My Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 10:09 a.m. here in the great Northeast this beautiful Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show, and I am he. And it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his great companies, including Serenity Care, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we lost this year, but salute today. Like Joseph Mahan, Scranton, Edward Urish, Drums, Paul Delaney, Hughestown, Samuel Valenti, Pittston, William Whitelevich, Simpson, and Carl Rice, Catawissa. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incredible Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle, gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, and letting you know that we will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you for the balance of the morning. And we began this hour, among the many things we have to confront and deal with straight up, is the existential threat of Islamism here in the United States. Mamdani is just another symptom. There's 4 mayors in Patterson. We've got a city, Dearborn, Michigan. I forget that it's like 60% Muslim. And by the way, no big deal. But they are led and allowing themselves to be led by Islamists and Islamist radicals. Look who they elected. Think of their congresspeople, the squad. They are imminent threats to this country, and don't think they're here for fun. And don't think that the Islamist radicals and their Democrat Party apologists are here to practice their religion and let you practice yours, or to not practice religion. Not for a second. They are here to take over, and those are varied statements telling you exactly what they plan. I don't have to make it up. I don't have to say it. They say it. Please remember that. We're going to talk about it. We're not going to duck from it here. It's important. You know what else is important? Our history. And that's why we have our man Rick Bigelow on whenever he's got something prepared. And August 5th, obviously, a banner day in World War II and in the history of this country. And here he is with his own theme song, patent attorney extraordinaire, and he may be even a better historian, Rick Bigelow. How are you, Rick?
Doing fine, Bob. How about you?
Great. Welcome back. So tell us, let's set it up, August 5th, 1945.
Sure. Yep. Let me back up a little bit to the Trinity test, which happened in late July of 1945. Truman really wanted to have a test before his meeting in Potsdam with Churchill and Stalin. Potsdam's right outside of Berlin, after the Germans had surrendered. So the Trinity test takes place, and it was a test of the plutonium bomb, and they didn't know if it would work. They didn't know what the outcome would be. Some people even thought it was going to ignite the atmosphere and end the world, and so on and so forth. So they did the Trinity test. It came out with a yield of around 20,000 kilotons, and estimated was 10,000 tons of TNT. So they did the test, and a trillion fissions of uranium-235 happened in less than 1/1,000,000th of a second.
My God.
So it was just incredible power. and an incredible scientific and engineering accomplishment from the United States and our British allies. So Truman was informed about the Trinity test and that it was successful, and he mentioned it to Stalin at the Potsdam conference, and Stalin was sort of indifferent, and he just said to Truman, well, I hope you'll use it wisely. In reality, Stalin knew much more about the U.S. atomic bomb project than Truman knew for most of his vice presidency because of all the Russian spies that had taken information from the project. So there was a lot of discussion in the upper echelons of the U.S. government over whether we should use the bomb or not. Germany had already surrendered, and many, including Eisenhower and FDR's chief advisor, Admiral Leahy, thought Japan was about to surrender and the bombs were unnecessary. And even Nimitz and MacArthur, who were the two commanders-in-chief in the Pacific, didn't know anything about the bomb until the summer of 1945. And once they found out about it, they weren't really in favor of it. The scientific community wasn't all that much in favor of it either. A lot of them, of course, were refugees from Eastern Europe and from Germany. And once Germany had been defeated, they said that was the end of the purpose for the bomb. So there was a lot of opposition to it, and there was a high-level meeting finally where they made a recommendation to Truman to go forward. And key in this meeting was Joseph Grew, who had been the ambassador to Japan for 10 years prior to World War II, and he really understood the Japanese, and he knew that they wouldn't surrender. We talked about the surrenders of 250,000 German and Italian troops in North Africa after that campaign. Well, the Japanese were never going to surrender. Their troops were never going to surrender in all but very small numbers. Grew understood that. He knew that Japan had never been conquered in its history, and that they were going to fight to the death to maintain their society and maintain their emperor. Grew thought that one atomic bomb wouldn't be sufficient, that we would need to drop two. So they came up with a target list of 4 cities in Japan that had been relatively unscathed by the B-29 bombings that had been taking place for the past 6 months. Hiroshima, Kokura, Nagata, and Nagasaki. And finally they said Hiroshima would get the first bomb and Kokura would get the second. So B-29 Enola Gay takes off from Tinian on August 6th and proceeds to Hiroshima, drops the bomb. It's successful. One interesting backstory on this, Truman really struggled with the decision to use the bomb. He went back and forth in his own mind many times about it. And finally, when one of his advisors said to him, you know, Harry, I'm thinking about how I'm going to testify at your impeachment trial when 100,000 angry mothers come to the realization that you could have stopped the war in 1945, but you let it go on for 3 more years, and we had another 500,000 fatalities. So after that, Harry decided he was going to go forward with it. So he approved the use of the bomb, and they dropped it over Hiroshima. The numbers are difficult to come up with exactly, but figured it was on the order of 80,000 Japanese were killed almost immediately, and of course there were some who suffered for days and months before they died later on. Many civilians, but there are also many military people, and some military facilities were destroyed. But even after that, the Japanese Imperial Council decided to continue the war, and so they authorized the bombing of Kokura. So another plane headed to Kokura, and the Kokura was fogged in. So they were just about to come back to Tinian when it became clear that Nagasaki had opened up as far as cloud cover, and so they proceeded to Nagasaki and dropped the uranium little boy over Nagasaki. Pardon me, it was the second plutonium bomb over Nagasaki. Once again, 70, 80,000 killed and a lot of military and facilities. The Japanese military still didn't want to surrender after the second atomic bombing, but on the same day, Soviet troops stormed across the border into Manchuria and Korea, were rapidly advancing, and that's when Hirohito decided to surrender. Even after that, there was an insurrection of Japanese naval officers against the emperor, and they actually attacked the imperial palace in Tokyo and wound up killing several guards and key advisors to Hirohito before they themselves were all killed. So even after these devastating atomic bombings and the Soviets attacking, there were a lot of Japanese who still didn't want to surrender. So on August 15th, Hirohito announced to the nation that they would endure the unendurable, meet the requirements of the Potsdam Declaration, and that was unconditional surrender. A year later, Truman signed the Atomic Energy Act.
We're going to take a break now, but I want you to contemplate this for us for when we come back. You've got to realize how brutal and vicious the Japanese were to anyone that they had conflict with. They had to have thought that the Americans were going to do the same thing in Japan. And they found out what must have been an amazingly pleasant surprise that was not the case. Rick Bigelow is our guest. August 5th, the A-bomb is our subject and its aftermath. We'll be back with Rick Bigelow on the Bob Cordaro Show after this. The Beach Boys. Murph says they I don't know where he found this one. They recorded their hit When I Grow Up to Be a Man at Western Recorders, Hollywood, California. This date, 1964. Rick Bigelow's our guest. We're talking about the A-bomb, the Manhattan Project, and all of its aftermath. Rick, when they saw the firm but benign governance that the United States imposed upon them after the war, I mean, they had to have been shocked.
I think they were. One of the interesting stories is that of Commander Fuchida, who led the raid on Pearl Harbor. He had been corresponded to by one of the pilots that was shot down at Midway and was held captive by the Americans. And this one pilot wrote to Fuchida late in the war and just said how kindly he had been treated as a POW by the Americans. And Fuchida didn't believe him initially. And then when he saw how benign the Americans were in governing Japan, Fuchida himself became a Christian, and he became an evangelical minister.
Wow.
And he lived in Southern California for many years before going back to Japan. But
and Douglas MacArthur, Rick Bigelow, he had to have been thought of as the devil incarnate, or whatever their religion, the Shinto religion, decided that was.
Absolutely. I mean, they had everybody convinced that when the Americans came, they were going to rape all the women and torture and kill everybody and enslave babies and all that sort of stuff. And MacArthur, to his credit, and I think this was his greatest moment when he was basically the shogun of Japan. And of course, I think there's a lot of there's still controversy today over whether we should have used the atomic bombs or not,
which is ridiculous.
If you look at the history of what Japan did in World War II, they had a lot to answer for, and of course one of them is we estimated 400,000 to 800,000 U.S. troops would have been killed in taking the Japanese home islands. Another 3 million would have been wounded, and probably 5 to 10 million Japanese would have been killed. All U.S. and British POWs were to be executed upon the start of the invasion of the home islands. So basically, we're looking at doubling or tripling the total fatality in World War II if we went through and conquered the home islands of Japan.
And Rick Bigelow, I brought up the Japanese being shocked at our civility towards them, and and have highlighted to me their savagery in during the conflict and all throughout it.
Yeah, there's some it's really neck and neck whether the Germans were worse or the Japanese. But they had staged a reign of terror in Asia and the Pacific Islands since 1931, and they had killed an estimated 10 to 20 million Chinese.
Oh my God!
Mostly civilians. They also took food from China, Vietnam, Philippines, Dutch East Indies, etc., which led to widespread famine and many more deaths in those countries. And one of the first indications of barbarity was the book by Iris Chang called The Rape of Nanking, where they talked about the murder, rape, and ritualistic beheadings of some 200,000 residents of Nanking, which at the time was the capital of China. The brutality was unbelievable. One of the in Nanking, there were two Japanese officers who conducted a contest of how many Chinese civilians they could behead in a 5-hour period or something like that. And it was over 200. I mean, this sounds fantastic, except that there are pictures of it, and they wrote these stories up in Tokyo newspapers at the time, and these soldiers were considered to be heroes. So the other thing is, tens of thousands U.S. Allied prisoners were transported from the Philippines and the Dutch East Indies and so on to mainland China and mainland Japan in hell ships where they were crammed into cargo holds, and thousands died in POW and slave labor camps. Some of these prisoners were eventually sent to Unit 731, which was this facility in Harbin where they conducted all kinds of medical experiments on Chinese and even some American and Russian prisoners, and harvested organs from them, did vivisection, had put people outside in freezing weather and poured water on them to see how long they could stay alive, and so on. It was a horrible thing. 1 million Vietnamese perished, 4 million in the Dutch East Indies, 500,000 Filipinos, 250,000 Burmese, 100,000 Malaysians, and 100,000 from various Pacific islands were killed by the Japanese. So, the myth that we bombed a peaceful country that was about to surrender is just that. It was a myth, and I think it was a courageous decision by Truman to go ahead and drop the bombs, because it was going to take something really shocking and cataclysmic to get the killing to stop.
Amazing. Well, Rick Bigelow, thank you as always. We love having you on, and we love filling in all of the blanks in history, and we appreciate it. This was a big deal. It ended World War II.
Glad to do it, Bob.
All right, Rick Bigelow, patent attorney extraordinaire, but he's our historian. We love him. We'll take a break and be back with a Veterans Tribute after this. Our veterans this hour and every hour, this day and every day, presented to you and saluted because of John Basiliga and all of his great companies, featuring today Serenity Care, a senior care community with 4 locations, totally remodeled and revamped. Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston, dementia care units at Mid-Valley and Kingston locations. The gold standard for senior care, Serenity Care. Paul Delaney, he was just 61 when he died July 27th. He was from Hughstown. Born in Wilkes-Barre, a graduate of Pittston Area High School. He served us in the United States Air Force. Paul Delaney retired in December of 2017 from the Pennsylvania Auditor General's Department after 35 years of service. Surviving are Paul's wife of 41 years, Tammy Delaney, the son Paul, along with his wife, a granddaughter, and many other family members, sister, cousins, nieces, nephews. Paul Delaney. Samuel Valenti. He was 95 when we lost him July 26th. He was from Pittston. He was born in that great city in 1930. Graduated with honors from Pittston High School. Member of the Pittston High Marching Band, where he played the clarinet. He was first chair of the clarinet section during his 4 years of high school. Attended the University of Scranton and then the University of Pittsburgh Dental School, graduating cum laude in 1952. He then served us in the United States Navy. He often told stories of his time at Floyd Bennett Field, stating they were some of the happiest and most fulfilling times of his naval career. He opened a solo dental practice in Pittston, 1959, serving the community for over 50 years. He was a third-degree Knight of Columbus. He became an orthodontist even as he practiced. He's survived by his loving wife, the former Iola Ann Morgan of Pittston. They were married in 1964. They were blessed with 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. Surviving also grandchildren, numerous nieces, nephews, and other family members. Samuel Valenti, DDS. Our great veterans this hour. Brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Partly sunny today, high 85. Tonight, partly cloudy, low 60. Wednesday, partly cloudy with a chance of spotty showers, high 82. Thursday, partly cloudy with a chance of spotty showers, high 82. All right. Not bad. Bob Cordaro back with you on the program. Quickly, I want to do Mother Teresa before I overlook it, which is really the highlight of the show, along with the veterans tributes. When a young woman of high caste, now remember the caste system in India, you were born into a class, and that's where you stayed. They were called castes. So Mother Teresa says, when a young woman of high caste comes and puts herself at the service of the poor, she is the protagonist of a revolution. It is the greatest, the most difficult revolution, the revolution of love. So St. Teresa, so incredibly inspirational. You were not even allowed to deal with, converse with, depending on how many stations below that cast member was. And the people that she cared for, St. Teresa, were of the lowest caste. So she's talking about having someone from a higher caste come down and be part of her taking care of the lowest caste of the Indian people. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let The Beatles, Murph says this date, 1967, they moved from number 29 to number 3 with their hit, All You Need Is Love. Bob Cordaro back with you on the eponymous program. Let's go right to the blower because we only got a couple of minutes for Bill from Pittston. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing good. I was listening to your guest, and my dad was twice wounded in the invasion of the Sea of Japan, and they liberated a Japanese prisoner of war, Americans held in Japan, and he was never the same. He exactly agreed with your guest 100%. And then after his service, he went to broadcasting school, and he trained a lot of TV announcers for NEP and BRE, like Joe Franklin over the years.
Wow.
And he told me in the 70s how politically corrupt NEP was. And I thought, well, they can't be like that. And then in the 80s, I worked at General Hospital. We had Joe Zone as a guy had a total knee done. And he used to say how corrupt and political behind the scenes they were. But he said they're nasty people. He was in like 2 weeks, so he was always complaining. Even the charitable acts, he said, you're basically you have to do it. And he would just grind down at how rotten things were behind the scene. And after what they just did to Rob, it really ticks me up because his fiance is a lovely person and he's a great guy. And for them to do that just confirms what I've heard over the years.
Yeah, in the news and in the corporate structure and the upper executive portion of the news, they're awful. That's all I could vouch for. The rest of it, I've never dealt with anything but good people over there, other than the political people. I don't know. Crazy stuff. Thank you, Bill. Always a pleasure. My Picardo Jewelers watch tells me that it's 10:50. I'll tell you when it's on the nose because I'm looking right now. We'll be back. Tell me Friends didn't steal their theme song from this. Pleasant Valley Sunday. Murph says, the Monkees, August 5, 1967, they moved from 24 to 9 with that hit. And, of course, before that, Marilyn Monroe, dead in Los Angeles. And there's always been a thing about, well, did the Kennedys kill her because she knew too much? She was going to do this, whatever. Probably. I'm an Occam's razor person. It probably was what it appeared to be, a drug overdose. It's hard. These conspiracies are hard to follow. They're hard to go to. By the way, somebody said they saw a Shapiro commercial on TV this morning already. He's going to have more money than God, and he's going to lie about his performance. He can't even get a budget passed because he's running for president before he runs for re-election as governor. So he can't have any of the left-wing lunatic priorities dashed by the Senate Republicans. And so here we are with no budget in Pennsylvania. Amazing. Anyway. Somebody else texted in, Biden saying all over the news, Trump's erasing all the gains he made. Oh, my God. I saw that. And I thought, you don't even know what gains you made. Yeah, he's undoing your disasters. One by one by one by one. Remember you said you couldn't close the border without legislation, Joe? Remember all the lies you told? And I don't excuse him because he was demented. He was a liar. On his lucid moments, he was a liar. A disgusting, corrupt, sickening human being. Ugh. Somebody paid him. They reportedly won't pay his $300,000 a speech ticket. Who's stupid enough to pay $300,000 to hear Joe Biden speak? To hear Joe Biden lie? To hear him try to read a teleprompter? Man, you got to be the dumbest people on the planet. And then, on top of that, he couldn't get his $250,000 for some a black bar association group or something. My God, how dumb are they? Back to something so I'm not irritated going into the news. Good morning, Bob. I think it's so great you honor the veterans on your show. I'm wondering if I think it's so great that we have the veterans to honor. I look at it the exact opposite way, but thank you. I'm wondering if public schools still recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag that these heroes defended, and many gave their freedom and others their lives for. LTS. LTS back at you. I asked that question rhetorically more than anything, and a lot of people got back to me about their school district still doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to know if they're doing it in Dunmore and Scranton. That I would like to know. Wilkes-Barre. I would love to know. Well, so if anybody knows, let us know. Because it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Hey, we got Gene Barrett, my mayoral candidate for city of Scranton, coming up on the other side of the news. We have to end this insanity in Scranton with this mayor. We have to end it. Streets like Fallujah, a city hall we can't fix except for getting rid of the urinals. Can't build a pool up at Naog. It's got to end. It's got to end. Consultants being paid millions of dollars for nothing to simply support her candidacy for U.S. Congress. I mean, come on. Where are we going here? But our Picardo jeweler's watch, my Picardo jeweler's watch, says it's 11 o'clock. And I remind you, they don't just sell Picardo Jewelers watches, but they're my favorites. Breitling, Oris, Longines, Michelle, Shinola, Luminox, Swiss Army, and Seiko. We'll be back. Great good morning, everyone. My Bacardo Jewelers Watch says it's 11:11 and change here in the great Northeast this beautiful Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and one of his great companies, Serenity Care, the gold standard for senior care in the Northeast, to honor veterans we lost this year, like Samuel Valente, Pittston, Paul Delaney, Hughestown, Joseph Mahan, Scranton, Edward Urish, Drums, William Whitelavich, Simpson, and Carl Rice, Catawissa. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, and staying on the theme of the news, let's go to Tyler Cornell, who's in the studio with this latest report on 81 North.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, it's just gotten worse. Bumper-to-bumper traffic. The road work is northbound on 81 at the exit 180 Music. Right now, the backlog is actually past exit 175 Pittston and heading towards Laughlin. So I would recommend taking 315 or the PA Turnpike, whichever, because it says the anticipated end time is 3:30 this afternoon. So, yeah.
I hate to laugh because I'm not in the traffic. That was just my immediate my God.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I usually get notifications about this, but yeah, 2 days in a row, I was kind of surprised by how bad it got. So, yeah, just to reiterate again, yeah, bumper to bumper on 81 North at exit 180 Music, backed up to Pittston at exit 175.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. That's, don't avoid 81 North if you're anywhere south of Laughlin, really, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about where it's at right now.
All right.
So,
thank you.
good
Appreciate
luck.
it very much. Well, we've talked about this mayor's race, and I told you, as someone texted in, not just someone, by the way, Joe from Westside. He said, Bob, LTS every day. I was at Naog yesterday for a hike. The whole pool complex area is an absolute disgrace for years, but now you have to remember it takes a lot of water to fill a swimming pool. And we've had piles of dirt and $69 million from the federal government and have not built a pool in 5 years of this mayor's reign of error. It's awful. It's unbelievable. The incompetence, because you've got to remember this. Her devotion to a left-wing lunatic issues that's all that matters. Actually serving the people of Scranton is irrelevant. You have to understand it about all left-wing lunatics. It's what it is. It's sad. Well, we have, fortunately for us, we've got somebody running who can win. And that is Gene Barrett. And he is with us now. Gene, welcome to the Bob Cordaro Show. How are you? Gene, are you there?
I'm here.
All right.
I'm here, Bob.
Well, welcome. And then we're happy you've jumped into the race. And as you say in some of your literature, the difference is experience. Now, you were in the public sector, executive director of the Scranton Sewer Authority, board chairman Scranton Sewer Authority, executive director of the Danbury, Connecticut Redevelopment Office, which is where I met you, executive director of the Scranton Office of Economic and Community Development, 2-term Scranton City Council, president of Scranton City Council, Lackawanna Solid Waste Advisor, and then the private sector, Northeast Business Development Manager for PA American Water, president and owner of AeroCleanse, president and owner of Landside Steel Fabrication, president and owner of Energy Central Limited, president and owner of Community Central Energy Corporation, military experience, staff sergeant, for this United States Army. Military intelligence analyst, United States Army. Advanced weapons support operations sergeant, United States Army, Germany. That's who we need to be our mayor. You've had a lot of accomplishments. This is one of the things that I decry about this particular mayor. There are no accomplishments in her resume. There are positions after positions, but nothing actually gets done.
So you want me to comment on that?
Yeah.
I mean,
so.
I'm right here at Naog Park, across the street, as you well know. But where I live, I've watched the construction at Naog Park going on for 8 months, and it's not even half finished. And that's the problem with this administration. They really don't. She passes on all the responsibilities to various surrogates, and but they even though when she was elected, she said, "Okay, I'm not going to use that good old boy network and out with all you political guys and so on and so forth, and I'm going to hire people with merit." Hey, look, that's perfectly fine. It makes a lot of sense. But then she hires these people with merit, and most of them not from Scranton, and they turn around and hire consultants to do the job that she said they were qualified for.
And so, the only qualifications that this mayor has used is if you fit some box of either underprivileged or you're gay or you're this or you're that. There's been no background to these people, and that's why they can't accomplish anything without spending millions of our money on these consultants. It's outrageous.
We did a stormwater management plan, probably in cooperation with a couple of state and federal agencies, and along with Bernie McGurl, at least probably 12, 13 years ago. A very comprehensive report, and the administration turned around and hired a consultant, spent thousands and thousands of dollars to effectively say the same thing that was in this report that actually was sitting in the Scranton Sewer Authority office, right across the hall from the mayor's office. Okay, so everything that they do, they can't do on their own. All right, they have to hire consultants, or she delegates the responsibilities to surrogates or minions, and that's how the administration is run. You can't get into City Hall. City Hall is locked down. It's very similar to COVID restrictions. I went in there Friday afternoon to file my statement of financial interest. I couldn't get in. So I went into the office of code enforcement, which used to be the treasurer's office, and the woman, I said, I have to get up to the city clerk's office, and she asked me, do you have an appointment? This is the people's building. They're asking me if I have an appointment to drop a form off. But this is what happens, and it just, you can walk right into Fidelity Bank right next door and get banking services, not a problem. You could go in to Abe's at lunchtime and sit down and say, I want a hot pastrami sandwich. Walk right in the door, you sit down, more than welcome. You can cross the street, go into the professional office, professional medical building, used to be the medical arts, go up to the dermatologist on the second floor, walk right in the door, no problem. But yet City Hall is locked down to the citizens. They can't get in without an appointment, okay? And what I don't like about this mayor is, why doesn't she come out? Why does she always use other people to speak on her behalf? Okay, most of these key meetings, you don't see her in attendance. A lot of different activities that take place, you don't see her in attendance. All right, it's just she's for the last 3 years she's basically accomplished, or her job has been virtually done. All right, she's been absent. And all you have to do is look at her 57-page financial report. That 57-page financial report, as compared to the Democrat candidate this past primary, whose report was 13 pages long, when you look at that 57-page report, And people around here say, "Oh, she's got support from the Abington and the Waverly," and all. Well, not really. It's all across the country. New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois, Tennessee, Texas, California. Why are these people giving almost $100,000 in financial contributions to the mayor of the city of Scranton?
It's her left-wing network.
Okay, but so she spends more time in Washington, all right, and committees in the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which is something that a mayor should be doing. All right, I don't have an issue with that. Okay, but basically what she's done is she's created this network all across the country. I mean, why would somebody from Austin, Texas, be contributing $500 to a candidate for the mayor of the city of Scranton? The same thing, somebody from Chicago, Illinois, somebody from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
They could get a consulting contract. That's why.
Well, there's
or they already did.
There's a lot of that there too.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just tells the voting public of the city of Scranton. It just tells you something. This mayor has no more care or compassion for the city of Scranton. She doesn't. She doesn't know our she doesn't know our history. She doesn't know our past. And how dare they come out and say to me that I represent the dark past? Let me tell you something. I am proud to represent the past of the city of Scranton. My great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, okay, and all that they went through when they came over here. And you know yourself, through your own family, the discrimination, working in the mines, the depression, all right, everything they went through, World War II, Korea, and came back to get Scranton where it is today. And this mayor characterizes me as part of the dark past. What is this, The Empire Strikes Back? You know?
Well, we have a dark present. And she talked about the old boys network. She's got the new girls network. It's just it's worse.
They just can't get anything done. I know you don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you the question. How long did it take to build the Eiffel Tower? Do you know, Bob?
No, I do not.
No. I'm going to tell you. I didn't expect you to know. I wouldn't expect you to know.
Less time. Well, we actually had some information on it today, but go ahead.
It took 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days.
Ugh.
How long did it take to build that pocket park catty corner from Cathedral Church? Longer.
Yeah.
Longer. You're talking about 3,000 or 4,000 at the most square feet, and the remediation from the dry cleaners, as you well know, was done years ago. All right?
Amazing.
I mean, they cannot get anything done. They can't get anything done. Now, all of a sudden, they're out there painting lines. There's a pothole hotline. They have this new system at Public Works, all right, on tracking the pack masters and so on and so forth. And she's opening up pools and splash pads and you know, where are these quality of life improvements and issues? Where have they been for the last 3.5 years?
Gene Barrett, right? Do you promise to serve a 4-year term? Because our mayor cannot.
She can't.
She's trying
I told
to
some
leave
I told some of the political reporters, you asked the question, it's rather simple, okay? You ask the mayor the question, if you are reelected, will you complete a 4-year term? Yes or no? The answer is rather simple. It's black and white. There's no gray. It's either yes or no, all right? And if she refuses to answer that, either yes or no, all right, then that tells you something right there. The answer is the answer.
Yep. Well, Gene Barrett, we're happy you jumped into the race, and know that you could come on anytime to tell us, to talk about specific issues, to talk about general issues, to lay out your platform. I wanted to reintroduce yourself to the audience today, and we appreciate you coming on to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Gene Barrett, our candidate for mayor,
thank you.
City of Scranton. We'll take a break, and we'll be back. Our veterans this hour and every hour, this day and every day, brought to you by John Basiliga. And we're going to feature one of his great companies today, and that is Serenity Care. 4 locations, Mid-Valley, Old Forge, Wyoming, Kingston. Dementia care units located at Mid-Valley and Kingston. They are the gold standard of senior care in Northeast Pennsylvania, completely renovated, absolutely beautiful. The perfect choice for you or a family member. Serenity Care. William White-Alavich. He was from Simpson. We lost him July 27th. He was surrounded by his loved ones at Geisinger CMC. His wife of 53 years is the former Frances Gursky. William White-Alavich, he was born in Detroit, Michigan, and a graduate of Fell High School in Simpson. He then went to the U.S. Army and served us there. He was employed by Clifford of Vermont Company and later Sandvik Steel. Member of the VFW post in Simpson. He loved hunting and playing softball. He's also survived by his 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and many other family members. William White-Alavich. Carl Rice, motorcycle enthusiast, loved animals. He was 82 when we lost him, July 17. He was from Catawissa, born in Anthony Township, Montour County. Graduated Catawissa High School in 1961. He served this country with honor in the United States Navy from 1961 to 1966 as a communications technician, petty officer, 3rd class. He was married to the late Anne Mary Rice for 50 years. Married in 1967. Carl was employed as a laborer at Del Monte Foods, Bloomsburg, from which he retired. Former member of the Pine Street Evangelical Lutheran Church in Danville. He just absolutely loved animals. He loved motorcycles. He loved gathering with friends, good food, and laughter. He's survived by 3 sons and 3 grandchildren and many other family members. Carl Rice. Our veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Serenity Care. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from our guy, meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, partly sunny, 85 degrees, 79 outside the studios right now. Tonight, partly cloudy down to 60. Wednesday, partly cloudy with a chance of spotty showers. It will be 82. Thursday, partly cloudy with a chance of spotty showers, 82 degrees. Well, he's been very patient with us, but he's going to be our judge, so he's got to have patience. And it is Matt Wolford. He's running for Commonwealth Court here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Commonwealth Court is the one that hears all of your battles against local governments and the state government. So he's uniquely positioned for us. Matt, welcome back to the Bob Cordaro Show. How are you?
Fine, Bob. How are you today?
Good. And again, my apologies and thank you for your patience. What have you been doing? Tell us how this campaign has been coming along.
Well, as I have mentioned before, it's a big Commonwealth, and I'm getting all over the place. I was in Northeast Pennsylvania last week for a couple of days. I was in Tunkhannock. I went to the Yearbook Diner for a lunch event and met with a couple of reporters.
Nice.
And I went to the Triton Hose Company Festival and marched in the kind of wet parade. I was alongside Congressman Dan Muser and State Treasurer Stacey Garrity, who both attended that event, so it was a lot of fun. The next day, I was up in Montrose for the Blueberry Festival and then went to the Wayne County Fair.
Nice.
So I had a good week. But prior to leaving, sort of talking about the Commonwealth Court and the importance of, sort of pushing back on overregulation. On July 30, which was last Tuesday or Wednesday, I submitted comments to the DEP's state plan to adopt certain aspects of what they call Quad O comments. This has to do with methane detection at oil and gas well sites. And I think I've mentioned before that I represent the conventional oil and gas industry, which is the conventional meaning the old-timers, that not the high-pressure gas things that are going on with Marcellus up in your region.
Like old-school Titusville.
Old school Titusville, that's right. Yeah. So these Quad O requirements, and when I tell people, the reason it's Quad O, well, why do they call it Quad O? It's because there are so many regulations in this sub-part of the EPA's air regulations that they've gone through the alphabet 3 times already. A, and then AA, and then AAA, and they're already up to, well, it goes beyond Quad O, but there's 4 O's. That's what this thing deals with. Okay, so I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how many regulations there are. So, and I think we can all agree and understand that if someone is going to put in a new well site with modern technology, an unconventional well up in Marcellus Shale, that they should be putting state-of-the-art methane detection equipment on. Okay, that sounds reasonable, and we can live with that because they're worried about methane emissions. But to impose modern state-of-the-art equipment requirements on the conventional oil and gas industry, to give you some idea, they want the conventional industry to use equipment to detect methane emissions, little leaks. The equipment costs $100,000 to purchase. I mean, these companies don't make that in multiple years. And so, once again, the conventional industry is being faced with, abusive type regulations that are really unnecessary. There are other ways to figure out the information that the EPA wants and the DEP wants.
And by the way, Matt Walford, under current U.S. Supreme Court rulings, they may be unconstitutional.
Well, at some point, something becomes so unreasonable that it goes outside what was authorized by statute. And these are the kinds of issues that come before the Commonwealth Court. It's, when does a regulation become so oppressive that it's unreasonable? And if it is unreasonable, then it exceeds the statutory authority. And so this is just an example. Last week, we're submitting comments to the DEP saying, if you make us pay $100,000 to buy the equipment to test the little leaks that you're worried about, we're probably not going to survive complying with the regulations. And sometimes I think that this is what the government and the non-government organizations want. They just want to create so many requirements that the industry, which is a fossil fuel industry, goes out of business. And these are the kinds of things that I just think is government overreach and government overregulation.
Matt Walford is our guest. He is our candidate for Commonwealth Court here in Pennsylvania. That is the court that hears your grievances against various government agencies. And Matt, let's go a little bit into your background, because this really is your bailiwick. You're far more qualified than your opponent. You've done this work that you'd be making judicial decisions in an area. Tell us about it.
Sure. Well, I started off my legal career down in Philadelphia. I was working for the Attorney General's office in what they call the torts litigation section, which is personal injury defense for Commonwealth agencies. PennDOT, state police, whatever Commonwealth agency gets sued, we defended them. And that's when I first got into Commonwealth Court, because all those cases, if they come out of the Court of Common Pleas, a lot of them were from Philly, some from Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, Delaware County. Those cases all go to the Commonwealth Court because it deals with sovereign immunity issues. So I learned how to litigate cases and specifically litigate appeals in front of the Commonwealth Court back in the late 1980s. I then became an environmental crimes prosecutor when I learned criminal litigation, and then I went over, because I liked the environmental aspect of what I was doing, so I went over to the DEP and learned how to do environmental law, and learned how to do administrative law, and learned about how they make regulations and all those things that commonly come before the Commonwealth Court. I left the government agencies about 25 years ago, and about two-thirds of my practice is fighting with the DEP on overregulation and unnecessary enforcement, and unnecessary civil penalties. I represent the oil and gas industry up in northwestern Pennsylvania. That's one of the main things I do. But I also represent, landowners and farmers and others that are subject to government regulation that are being enforced against by the government. And I also help, real estate developers and others sort of navigate the myriad of regulations so that they can try to get something done in a timely fashion. I was listening to your prior guest, and I was chuckling when he said that the Statue of Liberty was built in less time than 4,000 square feet across the street. But that's the modern reality.
Yeah.
I mean, last week when I talked to you, we were talking about the energy summit in Pittsburgh, and one of the big concerns about Pennsylvania becoming a leader in producing energy to support AI is the permitting problem, and permitting litigation in particular is what Brendan Bechtel had raised. And it can take 3 or 4 years to get through litigation, even though we have a government agency that approved a permit, which is crazy. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things that come before the Commonwealth Court regularly, and I do have a background that makes me well suited for that.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, and as I said before, and I'll repeat again, anytime you want to highlight an issue or focus on some part of your campaign, and we're up for you for Commonwealth Court. We need you there. We truly do. So, Matt Wolford, we thank you for running and coming on the Bob Cordaro Show.
Thank you very much. I enjoy my time spent here.
All right, we'll talk again soon.
All right, see ya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Matt Wolford, Commonwealth Court candidate. A common sense, I've heard this from lawyers, brilliant. He understands everything that he's going to be confronted with as a judge, unlike his political opponent. We'll take a break and be back. We're back. Bob Cordaro, WILK. Let's go to the blower, Mike from Bloomsburg, on the atomic bombing of Japan. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Bob, I'm doing well. Yourself?
Great.
What it reminded me of was, he was talking about, dropping the weapons and everything, and that they were used.
Rick Bigelow, yeah.
Yeah, but then it wasn't that long ago in history that all we heard about was nuclear winter. If there was ever an exchange of nuclear weapons, all this stuff would be put in the atmosphere, particulate matter, and it would cool down the earth, and it would be the end of the world. Okay, but the truth of the matter is,
I thought they wanted to cool the earth down. Don't give them any ideas, Mike.
That was back when we were all going to die of a winter. Winter was going to kill us, not heat. Right? It changes. But basically, what they did was when they did the study, they forgot to add in that our atmosphere has a tendency to cleanse itself with storms, rain, and precipitation. That was all left out. So anything that went up just stayed there. So that's where the cooling came from, But basically, the people pushing that, really what they wanted was to get rid of all nuclear weapons. They wanted us to disarm. And that's what the left does. The left wants to have control of everything, and they will make up an end-of-the-world story for whatever they want to get, okay?
And
that's the way they act.
The problem is, Mike, that unfortunately, they can't control the evil on the planet.
No, they can't. And we're fighting a multi-front war, Bob. We're fighting the Democrat left, the mainstream media, the deep state, and now we're even having the Congress. And what really set me off was how appalled everybody is about gerrymandering in Texas. When you look at where it's being done the most, Pennsylvania's a typical example, Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, any blue state gerrymands the heck out of it. And in the last election, it should have never been that close in Congress, but it was because of the gerrymandering. Trump won and Democrats lost in so many of these states where they lost the popular vote, yet they gained congressional seats. So, you know what? I don't trust these people. I don't trust anybody. And we need to get more of an education in our schools to teach people about finance and teach it about survival of this country, because we are in serious danger on so many fronts right now. I'm not so sure we're going to make it.
Well, critical thinking is lost, that's for sure. Certainly with 40% of the population is lost. Remember, people voted for Kamala Harris. Please remember that. You need to say more. Mike, thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
You too. Take care now. Thank you. Bye.
All right, we're going to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We will return to wrap it up here on a Tuesday. We'll be back. Bloomberg Money Minute. We'll be back after that. Bread. Murph says they were moving up the charts with their hit Guitar Man this date, August 5, 1972. And we're going to close with Bob Seger because in 1978, this date, he moved into the top 10 charts with his hit, Still the Same. And we'll hear that one. We love it. Hey, somebody said, my God, Biden, monumental gains all gone. Yes, wide open borders, high inflation, gender mutilation, anti-Semitism on college campuses, high gas prices, all gone thanks to President Trump. Someone tell Biden his so-called gains were the destruction of the country. Yeah. Bob LTS every day. I think I read this one already about the disgrace of NAOG. Somebody texted, and maybe they're supporters of the mayor, Mayor Cognetti. Why don't you talk about the pool and skate park being built at Weston Field? So do you want me to talk about, by the way, I don't know that to be true, but let me assume you're right. So you're saying, oh, I did 1/10 of my job. Aren't I great? Is that what you're saying? My word. You can apologize for anything. Somebody else texts in, why is it okay that the mayor of Scranton lives in Clark Summit? It's not. Somebody asked her, will Gene Barrett be a write-in? No, he'll be on the ballot as an independent candidate. Joe from Trips Park, I was looking forward to my now teenage son enjoying all the local pools with friends. Not only have the many pools disappeared, but the replacement splash pads and the fuel pools page did have redone have failed time and time again, even after all the consultants. Not to mention the splash pads are for toddlers and leave out everyone else. A disaster. I know it. Slick. No, that's not Slick. This is another listener. The only way to get Cognetti to show up is plenty of cameras in one place at the same time. Another listener. Paige Cognetti is so slow in doing anything. She does. It probably takes her 2 hours to watch 60 Minutes. Another listener. Gene Barrett for Scranton Mayor. Good luck. Yep. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I don't know. Yeah, Gene needs to call their bluff, meaning the city halls, make an appointment. I don't want you to feel not part of the conversation if we're talking about Scranton, because we're talking in the embodiment of Mayor Cognetti about everything that the left is. That's why we're talking about Mamdani. They're all of the same stripe. They're all a disaster. They're all left-wing lunatics. And they're ruining every place they are governing. And she's not even going to stay. She's going to try to become the congressman after she wins this election. That's her plan. It's what it is, guys. Hey, we're out of time. So I've got to go. God willing, I'll be with you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And we'll talk about all this again because there's never enough time. Sue Henry show next. Rob O'Donnell show after that. For now, though, we've got to adjourn this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, gaveling it to a close. Have a great afternoon. Adios.